Hello and welcome to Wildcat Game Day Preview. My name is Hallie, DeVore, and I am joined here by Viktor Östlund. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. So obviously the Minnesota game was canceled this week, so the show is going to be a little bit different in terms we're just going to kind of highlight past games in the season as a whole. Northwestern right now looked pretty good this season. So kind of looking back at the season as a whole, what do you think Northwestern's done right? What have they done wrong?
Right. I mean, I think the first thing you have to go to for something that they've done right is Mike Hankwitz's defense. He's done a fantastic job limiting other teams' offenses. They're only giving up 15.3 points per game, 322 yards per game, second in the Big Ten and third in the Big Ten, respectively. That's a big jump from last season when they were giving up 23 points per game. The yardage is a little similar, but obviously they've done an incredible job. I think the credit there has to go to turnovers. They've really run a bend but don't break defense and have been incredibly clutch down in the red zone, limiting points given up, even though they've given up quite a few yards at times. But I think you really have to credit the defense for the most of Northwestern's progress this season as they went on that 5-0 run. I think you can also look to one theme in general is they've been clutch. They've done a great job converting on fourth down. They're 75% on this season compared to 39% last season. They've also been a really strong second half team. They haven't really put together that complete game yet, but even though they've struggled sometimes in the first half, they've been absolutely lights out in the second half most of the time, only giving up 22 points in the second half this season. 12 of those came against Michigan State. So obviously through those first 5 games, they've really done a fantastic job. And I think they've forced turnovers when it's necessary. You saw in the Iowa game earlier this season, all three of Iowa's final 3 drives ended in turnovers, 2 picks, 1 turnover on downs. And so they've certainly been clutch. If you want to pivot to the offensive side of the ball, they're doing a better job putting up points. They only put up around 15 points per game last season. Now they're closer to 23, 24, which is a big improvement. I mentioned the fourth down conversions. They've also performed better in the red zone. I think up from 75 to 83% scoring in the red zone. They're now scoring touchdowns on 60% of red zone trips and compared to 50% last year. So all across the board, some incremental improvements that I think have really helped them win the tight games that they usually win.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But again, 5-1, but looking back to last week's game, Northwestern had looked strong, like you said, defensively, even offensively all season. And looking back to the game against Michigan State last weekend, Northwestern really did crumble on the line of scrimmage. So how do you think, or what do you think was the difference from Northwestern playing Wisconsin to Northwestern playing Michigan State?
I think the first thing you have to mention is really discipline and focusing on that turnover battle. They absolutely dominated the turnover battle. Graham Mertz of Wisconsin threw a bunch of picks throughout the game. Really, defense was lights out. Whereas if you shift to the Michigan State game, they had their own struggles with the ball. Peyton Ramsey threw 2 picks. You had 2 fumbles. Kyrique McGowan's fumble in the middle of towards the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth was pretty crucial in shifting momentum to Sparty's side as the game came down to the wire. I think otherwise, you mentioned the battle at the line of scrimmage. They really struggled to establish the run game, and I think that hurt them. Northwestern had 222 passing yards, but only 63 off the ground through the run game. I think that put a little too much pressure on Peyton Ramsey to make plays, partially resulting in those 2 picks. And it left them very one-dimensional. And as was pretty evident, they struggled to put too many points on the board and ultimately obviously came up with the loss. I think there also is a point to be made that they may have been a little too gutsy early on in the first half. They went for it on fourth down I think 3 times. They're successful on only 1 of them, 1 turnover on downs. And then a second time on 4th and 4, Peyton Ramsey threw the pick while down 7 early. And so I think they went for it a little too much and were a little too gutsy. Maybe all the national attention got to their heads, but I think they went for it a little too much early as well.
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree. But amidst all that, Northwestern has 1 more game and also is heading to the Big Ten championships in Indiana. So just kind of looking forward to both these things. What do you think that Northwestern really needs to lock in on or focus on these next couple weeks in order for these to go in their favor?
Yeah, I think they definitely need to keep a balanced offense. We saw that was lacking more or less against Michigan State. Didn't really establish the run game, and they've had a pretty balanced offense all season. Coming into Michigan State game, they had eight rushing touchdowns, 8 passing touchdowns, and really left their opponents guessing which way they'd go on kind of every play. So I think they need to keep that balanced offense, really avoid being one-dimensional as one key. And I think another key just has to be turnovers. As a team that maybe doesn't light up the scoreboard on the offensive side, as we definitely know, turnovers can be crucial. And I think when Northwestern's beaten good teams in the past, especially very good teams, they really dominate on the turnover. In the turnover battle, we saw that 2 weeks ago or a couple of weeks ago against Wisconsin, then a top 10 team. You saw it a couple of years ago in the Holiday Bowl against Utah, forcing 6 turnovers, only giving up 1 turnover. So I think when Northwestern really faces high quality teams, they have to win the turnover battle or they can't really go deep. And I think that'll be especially true this postseason.
Yeah, well, thank you. That is all I have today for Viktor Östlund. I'm Hallie DeVore with NNN Sports.